Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing this morning? Yeah, thank God I'm paying him to be here. So, really exciting stuff going on here at Signature. Have you guys heard that we're moving into a new space for the Summerlin office? Janet, what do you think of the space?
Let me speak for Janet.
I'm sorry, I was discussing something very important. It's really nice.
It's really nice. If Janet thinks it's nice, that tells you it's really nice, right? So we're in the middle of that move, and I appreciate everyone working with us. Moves are never easy, and when you put your client through it every single month, you think about, oh, this is great, we're going to help you find a wonderful home, and then we're going to help you put your crap in a box and ship it off somewhere. But right, it's a different experience for sure. Brandon Roberts is not here with us today, in case you missed him. He is off to President-elect training in Chicago. So if you notice, President-elect training now includes a Cubs game. It didn't when I was President-elect, but they even won. That's how cool that was, right? Any Cubs fans? None that will admit it. Fantastic, Ellie. Very cool.
What sport is that?
What sport is that? Yeah. So we're going to start off. We have David with Prosperity that's going to come up and share some mortgage tips with us. And let's give David a round of applause. The group at home.
Hey everyone, glad to be here. David Meyer with Prosperity Lending. I was of course asked to give today's tips. We have a new program, so it's called the One-Time Close, and it's really cool in terms of adding additional options for your clients. So obviously inventory is an issue, getting better, but it's still not where we would like to be, obviously. So one cool thing is a one-time close program where instead of getting a lot loan and a construction loan, you can actually have the whole thing be closed at once. So I want to go over some cool tips and benefits to you guys that you guys can share with your clients. So top 5 things, one of the first thing is it's a real one-time close. So that means when you guys close, after the calculations have been done, the loan's been approved, that's it. They don't have to re-qualify. So when the loan closes, that's it. There's no appraisal. They lose their job. It's not on you. You've already been paid, the loan's closed, and you're done, and construction continues from there. So it works with land that's already bought. So if you have a client that has land that they've recently purchased, or they have land on hand, then the loan can actually cover up to $150,000 of that purchase price that they've purchased the land for already. So that's pretty cool. No payments from borrowers during construction. So they basically just pay for down payment and closing costs, and then they can also use down payment assistance for it. So and that's my number 4. Some options offer 100% financing on that. Where can you find 100% financing on building your own home these days? So very cool. And no payments during that period. So once they close, the loan's done. Until construction is complete, there's no payments from the borrower, which is pretty awesome. And the last option, and last benefit, full commission for you guys at closing. So a lot of builders are cutting you guys out, which I think is crazy, and you guys get full commission at closing with this program. So thank you guys so much.
Very cool. Thank you. We got a question right here.
Do you have any limits on that? Like what are the loan limits?
Loan limits on it?
Yeah, so the bigger thing is it's actually more cost effective for your borrowers that have good credit and higher down payment to go for the 2-time close. So I would recommend that for higher limits. This is more specific for people who are looking for more affordable options in today's market, since the interest rate is about 1 to 2% higher than the normal rates.
So like 400 probably?
Yeah, 400 would be good, 400-ish. Yeah.
Ish.
About 785.
You mentioned if they already have
Love the
land, so if they're looking to purchase the land and build.
Yeah, so one of the things, obviously with bidding wars and sellers, they want to have their land sold right away. If they don't want to wait for us to go through the calculations and be able to get the loan closed, we can actually set up a lot loan so we secure the land, and that goes up to $150,000. And once the one-time close loan comes into effect, then they would pay off that loan up to $150,000.
Cool. How long do you
Yes.
have for the loan to build the house?
What was that? I'm sorry.
How long do they have to construct?
Oh, so typically you're looking at 6 to 12 months. It really depends on the builder and what the agreement is. Everything's kind of agreed on at closing, and if the builder goes longer than that, then they come out of pocket, and we have an incentive if they finish earlier.
What if you're an owner of them?
I'd have to find out for you. Yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's give it up for David. Thank you. Next, we have our very own Sherry KK. She's going to share some information on some projects that we are working on. Sherry, bring up your group.
Along with my collaborates.
Come on, collaborates.
Emma, what's our first thing? Okay. Okay. So, can you hear me, everybody? Oh, here. Now I
Yes.
can hear. So, for those of you that are new to Signature, of course, minus 2020, every year we do something called Making Strides Breast Cancer Walk. And so we do a couple events before that walk. That walk is actually on October the 24th. And that's the flyer that you have in front of you. And one of the fundraisers we're doing this year, I'm going to have Ms. Candace talk about, is a scavenger hunt. And it's going to be a collaboration of different brokerages. We've decided some realtors that belong to different brokerages. We love each other. We work really well together for these fundraisers. We've started something called the Tata Alliance. And that's what, if you want more information about it, you can go on the QR code on the flyer. And here is Ms. Candace. She's going to talk about it.
So yes, we thought of something really cool. We're going to do a scavenger hunt in downtown Summerlin. The admission fee is $50. It's going to be a really, really fun event. We're planning a lot of, it's not just stopping. You may see some fun people at the stop that you may want to meet. You may actually get to do a photo op somewhere and donate to charity by hashtagging with that. There's all kind of fun things. So it's actually going to raise money within it as well and help the local stores and get awareness. And you get to go in there and meet the people that own the stores down there and promote them as well. But $50 for the entry fee, and we plan on making it
Teams of two.
teams of two. Yes, I was wondering, is it
And all
teams
the
of two?
money gets donated to
To the
American
Tata,
Cancer Society.
the American Cancer Society, but the team is Tata Alliance. We don't want it to be a competition like it has been in the past, because a lot of our friends and networking is at other brokerages, so we're calling it the Alliance, the Tata Alliance this year. So yes, we have Keller Williams and Realty One and some other ones joining in with us, Mary Perry and Michelle Kubiak and some other ones. So please scan that. We're going to be raising money all the way up until that 24th walk. So at the walk, we hope to peak and get some more donations there. So I'll let Sherry talk about that.
So the other event that we're most known for is our bake sale. And fortunately, our prosperity lending people have a great bakery connection, right? Her dad. Anyway, the bake sale is, where do we have that? October 19th. And we are going to do it at our new office.
Oh, no.
Yes, I know, Tom. I got permission from Tom, and then Janice said, well, you know, the new office has a great hallway. So we're going to have it. It'll be like during the meeting. It will be there before the meeting, after the meeting. Ladies, guys, whoever bakes, please bring your baked goods in. We probably start setting up about 8 o'clock in the morning. And we've really done well every year with the bake sale. We have a lot of fun doing it. And, pardon me?
I said, I'll bring brownies.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So those are the big two fundraisers for the American Cancer Society Making Strides Breast Cancer Walk on October 24th. And that, in itself, if you want to walk, it's $10 just for the shirt. And we meet usually at Lazy Dogs, you know, all of us together. And it'll be fun because it's going to be all different brokerages, not just Signature. And we're going to walk together for American Cancer Society for breast cancer. And Miss Florence here wants to talk about now, oh wait, stop, I'm sorry. We're done with that subject. I'm sorry, there's two main events. Sorry guys, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
All right.
You talk all the time for us.
I know, I'm such a yak box. But anyway, the other big event that I've been involved with for the last 6 years, except for minus 2020, is the Military Veterans Appreciation Day event. And again, for the newbies, Signature always buys a booth. We got approval. Vonda just gave me the word this morning. Prosperity does a booth right next to us, and on the other side of us is VA Rep. So it's a really exciting event. I do urge you guys to either, volunteer to work our booth. It's a fabulous way to engage with veterans. They always want to know about the real estate market. It's their appreciation day. It's free to them. There's food. This year, the event itself is going to be so exciting because we not got to do it last year. But this year, it's going to have a classic car show. And we're expecting a big, big turnout for that. And we're all very excited about that. So if you would like to volunteer to work the signature booth, you will contact Florence, okay? And what we do is we usually just break it into like 2 or 3 hour, schedules that you're there, like noon to 3, and you don't have to stay out there the whole day. The best part of this event this year versus any other year is it's October 16th, and it's not going to be 115, 20. It's going to be great weather and a great event. So Florence is going to run the booth. So if you are interested in meeting with us today, right after this meeting, we're going to get a little committee together to organize our booth. So anybody that's interested, please just stay after. We'll go do a little 10, 15-minute meeting about our booth.
I'm volunteering. And my car will be there too. And every time you hashtag the car, I have a donor that will actually donate $1 for every hashtag.
The Pink Panther.
Yeah, and because we raise cancer anyways, money, so I'm donating all of Pink Panther's money this year to our Tata Alliance. Last year I raised over $8,000. So I hope this year we can hashtag ourselves away. It's going to be appearing in all of this, but at the Craig Ranch Park, the Classic Car Show, that also is raising money within that, and I'm going to try to slip it in for us too. So it'll be a nice, fun time.
And then, again, back to that event itself, if you would like to volunteer for that event, on the flyers, there's a website you can go on, and you just go onto the volunteers, and it takes you to Sign Up Genius, I think is the name of the thing. And then it tells you what jobs are available. For veterans, by the way, if you want to share the word, it's free to them, free food, free booze, free entertainment, everything is free to them. It's all about our veterans, first responders, military, all of our guys that work so hard for our country. So, pardon me?
And gals.
Yes.
Gals.
Oh, Gail.
Women, female.
Yeah, oh, he's from Chicago. He talks weird.
You one of them.
Yeah, people. But anyway, okay, so did I cover everything? You guys got the dates?
Yeah.
And you got the flyers, and I hope to see you. Our booth is fun. We have a great time out there. And Candace, I am actually going to be everywhere. Florence is going to run the booth. Please, if you are interested in running the booth with us, please stay after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I get everything?
You got everything.
Good.
All right, so good stuff going on here at Signature, and so now I have a special guest to introduce. So last year, as president of the state association, believe it or not, Tom will be president of that group someday. Just 2 more years, right? Yeah. So we work hand in hand with a great group at Carrera, Nevada, who is the reason that we were able to stay in business in 2020. Believe it or not, Rocky was on the phone to me almost every day with Teresa, our state AE, telling us the new things that the governor was trying to figure out and ways to keep the industry moving or possibly not moving. And so thanks to him and his incredible group and the incredible team that we have at Nevada Realtors, we were able to keep the ball rolling. And so Rocky is going to come up and share a little bit about the session, some of the things that happened, and some of the things you won't believe that actually happened that really did. And he's going to give us a whole debrief of the entire thing. So let's give it up to Rocky Finseth. And I got to say, next to him, who puts together all of these presentations, who puts together the incredible advocate that you all should be reading every single time it comes out, is Isabel. Isabel is amazing, and probably the reason why Rocky looks so good when he does anything. So give it up to Isabel as well.
Ditto. Exactly.
Right here.
Yeah, right there. Stand up. Good morning, everybody. Good to see some friendly faces and some not so friendly faces in the audience. Pleasure to be with you all today. Yeah, as Chris said, right, we're your contract lobbyists, hired by the state association. It's part of what your state dues go for, and it was a challenging environment. Our job was basically to make sure that you guys stayed open and stayed in business. Once we were successfully over that hurdle, we showed up and found out that the Nevada Legislature was coming into session trying to put you out of business. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about what happened during the legislative session, what you avoided in large part. Normally, my boss is in the audience and makes sure that I cover this disclaimer. But since the past president is here and the future president is here, I'm just going to skip it.
That's fine with me.
Okay, great.
They don't follow the rules anyway.
If you didn't know, and most, most of the average rank and file member did not know that you really had a target on your back. The realtors had a target on our back. What do I mean by that? If you look at the bills that were introduced and/or discussed during the 2021 legislative session, they all had an impact on either you personally or your industry, or how many property managers are out there? I know some, right? Or particularly how many landlords are out there? Usually there's more, thank you. Particularly targeted at landlords, and we're going to talk about that briefly. You know, our state president is from Northern Nevada, good guy, personal friend of I think all of ours for the last 20 years, Brad Spires. He was asked a question after we ended the legislative session about what was the best thing that happened at the legislature. And he actually said, what really the best thing was what you guys didn't have happen to you. And so as we're going to start this presentation, and as you go through this discussion, I think you're going to see what Brad was talking about. How many folks had challenges during 2020 and 2021 in doing your business, right? We did as well. First off, we were virtual. The legislative process is not built for a virtual interaction between legislators and the general public, and in particular, right, the job that I do, which is interaction with special interest groups and the lobbyists that represent special interest groups. So they were virtual for half the legislative session. They were basically locked in their office every day for about 12 hours a day. And one really important person over in that corner is a realtor. Her name is Heidi Kasama. As a legislator, she's known as Heidi Kasama. The association, and Chris in particular, went to great strides to make sure that she got elected to the state legislature, because she ultimately became your voice inside many of these meetings, advocating on your behalf. So legislators like you were challenged with their work environment. We as lobbyists were challenged as well. We weren't allowed in the building for the first half of the legislative session. Again, right, just as you folks are all people, and you work with the general public, right, in talking to your clients and interacting with your clients, as lobbyists, we're creatures of habit. We enjoy sitting and talking to legislators one-on-one, but we were prohibited from doing that. Once we did get access to the building, this was what we called the little magic pass. You had to access a magic pass every single day to get in the building. Anybody know how many lobbyists there are in the state of Nevada? I know he knows, and I know he knows.
275.
Good guess.
236.
Higher.
418.
Higher.
100.
There's 800 lobbyists, registered lobbyists in Nevada. How many legislators are there? 63 legislators. Guess what? Each legislator could issue one pass a day to a lobbyist. You see the problem that develops pretty quickly? You see why we were really happy that we elected a realtor to office? Because I got a pass every day to make sure that you folks were represented. Once we got kind of Vandana.
Oh, I was going to say, just for perspective, on a normal legislative session when you're not in COVID, how often do you get to see a legislature or somebody in order to get stuff done?
Yeah, if we're not in COVID, right, my schedule is packed from about 7 a.m. in the morning till about 8 o'clock at night, each and every day, meeting with legislators, either attending hearings, grabbing them in the hallways, meeting them in their office. So probably be 12, 15 meetings a day with legislators talking about various issues, particularly real estate issues. So you can imagine, right, it's all of a sudden you get handcuffed and not have access to that. This little yellow dot here became Once the building opened up completely, you had to show proof of vaccination, much like we're dealing with now. And as long as you had that yellow dot, you were able to move around the building pretty easily. This was a picture of the legislative hearing. Normally, in any legislative hearing, particularly a real estate issue, this hearing room would be packed. Everybody see this little red X there? How many red X's do you see? One, right? That's where you could sit. So there was, in hearing rooms, they allowed about 3 to 4 individuals in a hearing room once the building did open. So again, right, this is just to show you, as you guys had challenges in your working environment, we had challenges in our working environment. Masks became incredibly political, not surprising, right? But you had actually legislators that refused to wear masks on the floor of the body. And so they were removed, they were physically removed from the floor of the legislature. They had to participate out of their offices for the remainder of the legislative session. So again, just more challenging pieces of the environment that we worked in. This is the legislative agenda that Chris and Tom and others, V sent us in with. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about some of these issues moving forward. Who's dealt with the real estate division and frustrated with the technology associated with the real estate division, right? I hear about this pretty consistently, right? It's a division that has kind of 1980 computer systems in 2021. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so the association said, hey, we're willing to impose a $15 fee on our licensees in order to improve the technology associated with that. So SB 276 was a bill that drove technological needs and assessed your licenses as you go in to renew your licenses, a $15 increase in that. And it was effective July 1st, 2021. If Tiffany was here, Tiffany would tell you that as you go in for your, I guess, August 1st renewals, that's where you start to see the $15 increase. But what was interesting, right, as 276 was moving through the legislative process, legislators quickly realized that it was going to take 4 years for the division to accumulate enough money, the $15 across all licensees, in order to meet its technological needs. And so they passed this supplemental appropriation bill, AB 458, direct result of the CARE Act dollars that were coming into the state. So they front-loaded the technology needs for the division, and that $15 will go just to augment future technological increases. So 2 good things for the association. HOA issues are always, Tom will tell you, always a constant problem for us. And there's bills after bills. I call management companies and HOAs kind of, anybody play whack-a-mole as a kid? I did, right? So you know, we as your lobbyists figure out a way to take the hammer and whack the mole, and then like 5 minutes later they figure out a new way for a new mole to pop up. So AB 237 is really an effort to, we think, will eliminate kind of excessive fees coming out of homeowner associations moving forward. To their credit, and Chris can attest to this and Tom can attest to this, the management companies actually work with us on passage of AB 237. So they, as an industry too, understand and recognize the problem that some of these ridiculous fees are causing in the industry. AB 398, who's gotten sued by lawyers off of SRPDs? Right?
No one here.
Oh, very good. Okay, excellent. Then we don't have to talk about this. This is really, this bill was driven as an effort to try to decrease your liability from lawsuits from judicious trial lawyers who are suing you as, I guess, sellers, agents in your client's disclosure of the seller's real property disclosure form. The way that, if Tiffany Banks, your legal counsel for the state association, was here, the way she describes this is, you know, if 25 or 30 years ago there was a water leak and the client doesn't know that, they're not going to be able to fill out that information on the SRPD. You should not be held liable because the client didn't realize that. So AB 398 is an effort to kind of limit that liability from judicious trial lawyers.
Can we pause on that for just a second? So this is really important because all of you, when you're dealing with transactions or getting kickback from other brokers and agents saying, go get your client to complete this. Go get your client to check this box. Go get your client to, you know, do all of these extra things. And the whole point is, the SRPD is a seller's disclosure. It's whatever the seller decides that they want to tell a buyer, and it's not for the agents to decide that day what's important to them to get their paycheck. And so this whole issue is derived around a listing agent, and we just had a transaction in this office the other day where an agent from another company sent over a pre-corrected SRPD as the buyer's agent for the seller to sign.
That happened yesterday.
It doesn't work that way. And so this whole piece is to protect listing agents from the point that's not your job. It's the seller's disclosure nonstop. And just remember this, because you can take this law and send it to them and said, I'm not going to break the law. It's not my job to complete the disclosure as a listing agent. It's the seller's, right? And this is real life. This is the stupidity in our industry that, you know, people just don't read what the documents say.
I'm shocked that you
No,
said that.
yeah, me too.
But if you're not writing that number down, I mean, that right there is gonna be a great reference for you to cover your butts in the future when someone says, will you just fill this out? AB 398 prohibits me from doing that.
Yeah, it's against the law. You all know that you break the law.
So I'm going to play this little clip. Isabel, this is called Third Estate, correct? Third house. I usually call this fourth house, and inevitably Isabel comes back afterwards and says stupid. It's third house, not fourth house. Who's the third? Third house is the media's attempt, particularly the media that works Carson City, it's their attempt at sort of sarcasm and making fun of special interest groups, i.e. the realtors, and legislators too. Want to play a snippet of this, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Nevada's ma and pop landlords recently banded together to protest what they call Republican Assemblywoman Heidi Casalma's inaccurate portrayal of their Jewish profession. A broad coalition of miles and paws issued an open letter saying they're insulted by the infantilizing language used in eviction hearings, adding that they're tired of depictions as hateless rubes who poured their entire life savings into a single Vegas rental property and are on the verge of bankruptcy after the pandemic. So yeah, your mom and I are renting out the Vegas house, but I'm also getting Social Security, mortgage forbearance, CHAP funds, PPP funds, homeowner assistance, and did I mention the house appreciating 24% in the past year? Paul said. Frankly, I don't recognize myself in a single anecdote that Heidi Casalma and her realtor friends keep sharing over and over and over again in these bill hearings. A group of ma's and pa's were last seen on Mountain Street, excitedly discussing their plans for evicting the Sisolaks so they could flip the governor's mansion and convert it into an Airbnb.
So right, I know you had a hard time hearing some of that, but they're basically making fun of realtors, right? And the sob stories that we're bringing to the legislature about the poor mom and pops that are going bankrupt, having to make their mortgage payments, having to pay their property taxes, having to pay their homeowners association fees because your property's appreciated 24%, right? Or you've gotten access to CHAP funds, or you've gotten access to Paycheck Protect PPP programs. So you can see, right, again, this is sarcasm, but sometimes it masks sort of the reality of how the legislature and the media is looking at the conversations and the battles that we're fighting moving forward. So I thought really instructional for our members to understand this is the environment that we're working in as we work through these particular issues. You know, to your credit and Chris's leadership, the association commissioned a study with our partners, SGS, Strategic Guidance Systems, out of Gainesville, Florida, and Portland State University. We understood going into the 2021 legislative session that landlord-tenant issues were going to be a problem we were going to be under assault again. And so the leadership of the association commissioned a study looking at kind of housing policies across the western United States, particularly as it relates to landlord-tenant issues. And I encourage you to take a look at the study because it was well done, always is well done when SGS is involved in the association. But the basic premise was the more draconian the landlord-tenant laws are in these western states, the more problematic it is for housing and housing affordability and tenants. That was the basic premise of that. And this report was distributed to the legislature, to each legislators during the 2021 legislative session. The other real problem we had is, anybody familiar with the Gwynn Center? I know Tom is. You are? Right. Gwynn Center is a think tank named after former Governor Kenny Gwynn. And it looks at public policy issues. And it happened to look at evictions and eviction risks in Nevada as the moratorium was going into effect. It was basically a report that helped Governor Sisolak and proponents of the moratorium justify the need for the moratorium and the length of the moratorium. And what we found was the numbers associated with what they anticipated was going to be the risk to tenants from an eviction standpoint. They estimated that over 500,000 tenants were going to get evicted in Nevada if you didn't have the moratorium in place. I kept hearing over and over again from our property managers that that was a bunch of bull. But the problem was we didn't have any data to augment that. This is a gentleman by the name of Assemblyman Howard Watts. He's a friend of mine. We just philosophically disagree, particularly on real estate issues. Let me play this clip for you, and then I'll explain why we're showing you this clip.
As a result of the pandemic, Nevada is on the cliff of a major eviction crisis. Gwynn Center, and during the pandemic, found that over 500,000 Nevadans are at potential risk of eviction due to the pandemic.
So you can see, right, problem with that report is legislators are using it as fact. And they're using it as fact to drive their policies, their public policy options before the legislative session. Again, we knew that that number was exaggerated because you guys were telling us that number was exaggerated, but we didn't have any data to push back on. And so consequently, right, Mr. Watts bought AB 141. Among other things, it was really going to monkey around with landlord-tenant laws and sealing of records and changing the timelines associated with evicting a tenant. Thankfully, as we worked through the legislative process with Mr. Watts, he got rid of the most draconian component of AB 141, and he did get past the sealing of eviction records. He took a very broad approach to the sealing of eviction records, as V and Tom and others will tell you. His initial approach was he just wanted to seal all records. And you can imagine that that's not workable for our members, particularly for our property managers. And so we were able to get him to limit that to just COVID-related incidences. And that is in effect currently.
So, back up.
Go ahead.
Because this bill.
Yeah, she
bothered
loves
the
this
shit
bill.
out of me. I hated it.
She loves
Every
this
part of
bill.
it. It's my least favorite one of all of them. And this is, I think we argued back and forth, not you and I particularly, but what that meant was if they defaulted due to COVID-19, how do you clarify, how do you justify that? Was it just the time frame? Is it between March 15th and whenever this thing is gone? What is, right? So there was no, that's the problem.
Yeah.
There was never any definition or,
Yeah, I think,
I guess.
I mean, I think you know, right? The courts are ultimately going to have to decide
And they don't know either.
what that is,
Have
right?
you ever been in front of an eviction court judge?
Yeah, no.
They have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not this week, but
I know.
make sure you give her the mic when she
Yeah.
talks to the hearing online.
Oh, sorry. I'm just bitching. Don't
She's
mind.
bitching, yeah.
They don't need to hear that.
He's being beat.
Yeah, I dealt with this for 16 weeks, right? And I love you.
Tell us about it.
I love you. But look, you know, what this shows in the legislative process, and again, right, this was something that Dee and I had lengthy conversations about, is
Sure, that's what you want to put.
Hey, real quick on that topic, because this is what people don't get about our process. They think we just sit in a room and we make decisions. So on our legislative group, we have an entire committee that's full of agents from all diverse different backgrounds, from brokers to agents to people with legislative experience. I mean, anything you can think of that we could put into that room to provide more context and value, we do. And then we take from that group and create what we call the legislative management team. This is the core group of individuals that get to review every single bill and read it, not for the context of needing to, you know, get into politics, but just like Vandana was one of the most vocal people on AB 141, was because she's a property manager. And because when she read the bill, she didn't see it as Republican or Democratic politics. She saw it as, I make my living from property management business, and this is going to slow down my owners, this is going to slow down our industry, and that's why we have that. We need her in that room to read that bill and say, this is the dumbest group of crap I've ever heard, doesn't make any sense, right? And she did that every email, by the way. Even when it did make sense, I just want to point that out. But that's why we put this group together, and that's why it's such a cool thing that she would read 846 bills, I think, and they're each, what, 5,000 pages? And that's the whole point. That's what this group is doing to better our industry. It's not just that we're sitting there saying, oh, this sounds like a good way to screw up the group's day. I want to make sure, because other people don't get that, because they never hear it.
I know you guys know that Chris doesn't exaggerate on things, right? No, he doesn't, but.
We're doing really good until that one.
I will correct you, right? Sorry. I will correct you. It wasn't 846 bills. It was like 1,500 bills that flow through that building, right? Our job as your contract lobbyist is to identify the ones that have an impact on real estate activities, and give it to folks like me and Chris and Tom and others to vet out for you. And as Chris has said, right, V is on that committee because she has a property management expertise, and so she can sift through these bills and help us understand better where the problems are. The other thing I will tell you, right, is we don't always get our way 100% of the time. This is just part of the legislative process, right? The idea, particularly with the 2017 legislature, the 2019 legislature, the 2021 legislature, is to mitigate the damage on the industry. And so while V takes exception to this, right, the way I view this and the way our lobbying team views this is, this bill was really horrendous for the industry in its original form. We tried to water it down as much as we could. I think getting rid of this provision, V would acknowledge, was a big give on Mr. Watts's part. Did we want him to get rid of this as well or further clarify it? We did, but Mr. Watts was only willing to go so far in achieving his policy objectives. Fair enough?
I'll live with that.
Okay. Summary evictions. Everybody understand what summary evictions are? If not, talk to B. Basically, right, and I'm sure you'll correct me, it's basically an easy process. It's an easier process to remove the tenant from a property if the tenant is being unresponsive to the eviction notice.
Fair enough.
Decent?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that works.
That's my lobbyist talk.
It's basically, we tell them to get out, they don't leave, we force them out.
Yep. So, these two nice ladies, legislators, said that Nevada was the only state in the country that has a summary eviction process. I found that hard to believe, but nonetheless, again, we were operating at a disadvantage because that's what the proponents of further changes to tenants' rights were telling these two particular ladies. So they brought a bill that would have eliminated the summary eviction process. As much as V's hair was on fire on AB 141, it was really on fire on AB 161.
I exploded.
She exploded. Happy to say that we were able to kill it off over the process of the 120-day legislative session. But I will tell you, this issue is coming back on steroids next time. And so we're going to have to be prepared moving forward on how we deal with this particular
I think
issue.
the first thing to find out is if it's true that we are so
So I'll tell-
barbaric that we have it.
I'll tell you
Is that a true fact or
I'll
not?
tell you a little secret. It's not. I know you're shocked, right? But lobbyists lie. I know it's a shocking statement.
How many out of 800?
Your lobbyist doesn't lie. But yeah, we're as we sit here today, right? The association is investing some resources into understanding this topic better and understanding whether those statements were accurate or not. Again, right? These are levels of degrees that V was getting really excited during the 120
Every time
day
it comes up, I'm like, oh.
during the 120-day legislative session, right? So again, as draconian as AB 141 was, as draconian as AB 161 was, SB 218 was kind of the monster of the 2021 legislative session. Fundamentally would have altered the landscape from a landlord-tenant point of view, put a lot of the rights in the hands of the tenants and out of the hands of landlords. We were able to kill that particular piece of legislation.
Is that aggressive? Is that, yeah.
You aggressive? I'm shocked.
Oh, it's coming back.
I know.
It's like herpes.
So, source of income. This is the tenant's ability, or the landlord's ability to inquire of the tenant where they are getting their income from, right? Landlords in the room, do you want to at least have the ability to find out if your tenant is bringing drug money to the table? Yeah. I would think that you would, right? Ms. Gonzalez was really focused on, she felt that that landlords would discriminate against tenants who had COVID assistance dollars coming to the table as part of their, and government program money coming to the table. Again, we were able to kill that particular bill off. Housing discrimination, right? Ms. Senator Neal really focused on folks that are coming out of prison and their ability to re-enter society, and specifically the housing market. So she worked very diligently on SB 254. Ultimately, Governor Sisolak vetoed that particular bill. This is a bill that the association did work on, right? The political landscape that we told Chris and V and Tom and others as we walked into the building was there were going to be fundamental reforms to landlord-tenant issues. We had to be willing to give in certain areas. And so AB 308 was really an effort on the association's part to show that we were willing to acknowledge that the tenants needed some additional changes to the legislative statute. And so this really deals with rent increases and the notice provisions associated with that, as well as late fees associated with your contract. So AB 308 did pass, working with Speaker Jason Frierson. A nice legislator wanted to deal with property management permits, and we were able to kill that off. Another legislator wanted to create a registry of landlords. We were able to kill that off.
We still don't know why, right?
Why she wanted to do that?
Yeah, we still don't have.
Holiday cards.
Huh?
Chris said holiday cards. That's really good. No, as we sat and talked to her, what she was interested in was she basically said, look, you guys come and tell me a set of stories about landlords, and then Nevada Legal Aid, which advocates for tenants' rights, they come and tell me a different set of stories. And she said, I want to know what the truth is. I want to know where the truth lies. And so her solution to that was create a registry for landlords and collect all this data through the state of Nevada. And then she could access that data as a legislator and then be able to tell, you know, is Nevada Legal Aid telling the truth or the Nevada Realtors telling the truth?
Yeah,
So-
but none of that information is gonna give her that.
Right, that's what we told her.
And it's already provided to the state
Mhm.
through the division, so.
Okay. We're relitigating the same stuff that we talked about.
I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Because it's dead anyway.
I know.
It's dead.
For now, right?
For now,
It's
right.
just,
Right.
Like I said,
But you know, they
this
did,
is why it's so important to
they
like
did-
vote.
they did do that with REOs, with asset managers, where they had to
Yeah.
register asset managers and their properties. And so, look how that helped.
oh, yeah, it's very helpful.
Didn't help at all, right?
It smoothed everything out.
So, AB 486 has been getting a lot of media attention as of late. This was basically your leadership of the association came to us kind of mid-session and said, you know, it's wonderful that these legislators are bringing all of these bills that help tenants, and there's very few bills, if any, that help landlords. And so your leadership asked us to work with the governor's office and with legislative leadership on a rental assistance program. That was what AB 486 is all about. As you can see, this is the proposal that was submitted to the Governor Sisolak's office, as well as leadership in both the State Assembly and State Senate. And it basically provides 100% reimbursement to landlords unlike the federal programs, the idea of this program is the landlords can access those funds directly rather than having to require the tenant to initiate those funds. As we sit here today, Clark County is still working on this program. We've had several meetings. Brandon actually has participated in one or two meetings with the county on getting this project up and started. But again, your leadership asked us to pursue this, and we were able to get it a landlord assistance program passed. Property tax proposals, they've been cropping up year in and year out. We were able to kill those. Homeowners associations, this really started out as a bill that dealt with HOA collection companies. Ultimately, it requires a homeowners association just to keep a secure website so owners can access information and documents. Other really important issues, they tried to alter the real estate commission by putting housing advocates on the real estate commission, as well as a member of the general public. We were able to kill that off. Who deals with short-term rentals? Okay, so this particular bill permits short-term rentals in Clark County, which were not permitted before the passage of AB 363, and creates these kind of distancing requirements. So another really important bill. Who cooks with gas in your house? I know I do. Yeah, so this particular bill wants to phase out gas in homes and in commercial properties by 2050. A real problem, particularly for our legislative chair, who is a renowned chef and loves to cook with gas. That was his bill that he wanted extinguished. At some point during the legislative session, we were able to.
That was funny.
Very good. Got undone. So, as you can see, right, we're going to end the presentation where we started the presentation. Again, if you didn't know it, you were the target of legislators with all of these various proposals that were coming at you. And slowly but surely, bit by bit, we were able to eliminate each and every one of these. As Tom will tell you, right, I tell members all the time, do not judge us on day 1. Do not judge us on day 60 of the legislative session. Don't judge us on day 100. Don't even judge us on day 120 of the legislative session. Sometimes we need that entire timeline and that process to get rid of the really bad stuff that's coming at you. And so as you can see, when we walked out of the building, while you had a target on your back, we eliminated a lot of the problematic stuff. As Chris promoted earlier, Isabel puts together the advocate for the membership. If you don't subscribe to it, I really encourage you to do that. It's got great information that she puts together during the legislative session. And when we're not in the legislative session, the advocate is focused on local government issues. With that, happy to take questions. None for me, though.
Why they want to eliminate gas?
Why did they want to eliminate gas? Great question.
Gas.
So the question was, why did they want to eliminate gas? It's an environmental issue for the environmentalists. They, it doesn't help with the ozone, and so they want to. And in fact, I think in 2018 or maybe 2016, I think there was a ballot question that passed that really created some of these targets by the voters of us phasing out sort of natural gas. So that bill was kind of carrying out what the voters had asked for. I don't know that anybody knew that that's what they were voting for, but it's a problematic bill for obviously Southwest Gas. It's a really problematic bill for our commercial strip properties, right? Who really we've got the best restaurants in the entire world, and they don't cook with electric stoves, right? They need gas. So it's an environmental issue. Yes, sir.
Do you interface at all with the federal legislators?
I don't.
There's a
Yeah, I don't.
torpedo coming at us.
Yeah. So so you have a three-tiered system. You have the National Association of Realtors, NAR. I have a counterpart there that does your national lobbying. You have the State Association, NVR, which I lobby for. You have a local association, which is LVR, which I hire the lobbyists to lobby for you folks there. So we don't do anything nationally. That said, we do keep track of national issues.
We do, as a state, that we input on it, because all of the state officers are national directors, like I'm a national director, Tom's a national director, Brandon's a national director, and so when an issue like that comes up, we also have what we call FPCs, Federal Political Coordinators, that are assigned to a congressional leader. So I think my dad is Dina Titus's FPC, he has been for like 8 years. It's based on, he's an independent, she's a Democrat, we can pair those together. We don't put a Republican with a Democrat, they seem to fight a little. But we have that continuity system because when issues like that come up, we lobby on multiple fronts. So we're gonna have the FPC go to the congressional leader and say, this is why this affects real estate. It doesn't matter the politics of the FPC, they always go to the realtor issue. So whether it's property tax or federal interest deductions, or any of those, or 1031 now is a big one.
1031.
They're lobbying for that reason as realtors nationwide. And then we have a massive lobbying group, as Rocky stated, that takes actual recommendations from our committees, and many of us sit on national committees where these meetings are like, everyone should experience one of them, maybe never again, but we go to those meetings and actually provide opinions from our industry like we do here. They take those issues to the national level, and then they actually go and lobby different groups. The only race we don't get involved in is the White House, right? But we do get involved heavily in different congressional races as realtors. And you've seen that. That was the Georgia Association and the Alabama Association were the ones that actually sued.
On the moratorium.
On the moratorium.
CDC moratorium.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm talking about is the capital gains
Yep.
doubling, which is...
It's top tier
Yep.
of the group.
1031 exchanges, big issue right now, more protection of mortgage interest deduction, capital gains, all hot topics at the national level.
And it has been for a decade,
It has
by the
been,
way.
yeah.
They've been trying to take this away for 10 years. It just now has kind of floated to everyone's radar.
Yep. Hi, Jen.
Okay, so since we're almost out of time, I think this is a perfect segue for Chris to flow into an RPAC commercial.
I'm happy to do that. Let's go to Todd's question and I'll
So Rocky, I was on the legislative committee for the state a few years back.
you were.
And one of the big subjects then, which has been kind of on my radar, has been tax on services.
Yeah, great
So
question.
tax on services would mean every time you got paid a commission, you'd get to pay tax on it, which you don't do now. And as we have a governor who's going into being reelected, knowing that, and in fact, you and I talked about this recently, a lot of times that when they go into the second session, their whole agenda is about raising taxes. So is tax on services back on the radar? I didn't see that come up in any of these bills this time, but are you still seeing that being something that
I mean, I can't imagine paying taxes on the income I make.
So does everybody hear
Sales
that?
tax.
Everybody hear that question? Because really important question, right? So the key there is, and this is not a Republican issue and this is not a Democratic issue, right? And I'm going to show you in a second. Every governor elected to a second term, right, is term limited out because we have a term limit cap, right? Kenny Gwynn in his second term as governor. Brian Sandoval, Republican, Kenny Gwynn, Republican, in his second term in governor, increased taxes dramatically, right? So Todd's question is, a Sisolak administration in their second term, is a sales tax on service on the table? What do you think the answer to that is? 100% it is.
Like crazy.
That's not a commercial, right, to say Sisolak is bad. He's not. But the reality is history shows us that in a second term of a gubernatorial administration, when they don't have to face the voters any longer, look at taxes. We basically shot our wad relative to the taxes that we can look at, right? We have essentially a business tax now in the modified business tax and the gross receipts tax, right? So we've sort of taxed business already. Personal income taxes are prohibited by the state constitution, so they can't go there. So where do you think that they can go? They go to property taxes, and they can go to sales tax on service. And so very much it is on the table and will be on the table. And I would actually argue it will be on the table whether Sisolak is reelected or not. What we didn't show you, but Tom has seen and Bea has seen, Chris has seen, is there is a report coming out of the State Department of Education looking at funding for schools down the road. And front and center in that report is the sales tax on service and property tax.
Because marijuana tax wasn't enough.
Right. Correct.
It wasn't high enough. Hey, these are funny. You'll think about these when you get home and be like, damn, I should have. I want to point out a couple of things real quick, and then I'm going to go to Vandana for her point. But when he says sales tax on service, I think the other thing you need to realize is there are multiple points of transfer of your commission, right? When that commission is transferred to escrow, when escrow transfers it to the brokerage, when the brokerage transfers it to you, they were looking at one time a 3% tax on every one of those points of transfer. So, you know, the whole point is that real estate, many times because of the PAC, because of Rocky, because of your leadership team, when my mother was president of the state in 2000 and whatever the hell it was, there was a sales tax on service that was presented, and she basically said we'll spend every dime in the war chest to keep it from happening. $5 million, that's what we have to spend, because it would cripple the industry. Imagine everyone across the board before you even pick a company has a 12% tax, right? Now there are other states where this happens, but the whole point was every president that goes through the state, and Tom is the same way, has made that their hill to die over. And luckily for us, that hill has never been overtaken.
Breached.
And so we're gonna continue that trend. I don't see that ever changing because that one tax is horrific, but imagine if we go to the other side, the transfer tax, $5.10 per thousand. At one point, they were going to fix the problem by raising it to $18 per thousand.
Oh my God.
That would make it higher than the commission rate, which is great for sales, right? Listen, I'm not the one you should be upset about. Call the state, right? But that was a sales joke. You'll get that one later too. But the whole point is they keep trying to refocus some other place to take the money to recover for the things that they're spending it on. So this is coming out of your pocket as small income earners, as local business earners, right? The margins tax, the only thing we did there was we capped it at $4 million. There are agents making over $4 million that are paying a margins tax, but luckily it isn't me, right? But the whole point is that, or unluckily, I wish I could pay a margins tax. I wish it was me. But that doesn't mean a company isn't. That doesn't mean a real estate company that earns that money wouldn't be paying it. So again, all of this is affecting you whether you want it to or not. This is the main point why we are involved in the PAC. It's the main reason why I contribute a percentage of my income. Here's how I look at it. I contribute a minimum of 1% of what I make, makes me a major investor, right? That's a $1,000 limit, and I'm not doing it because they have fun events. I've been at this presentation for my 8th time today.
8th time I've been through it, but you know why? Every time I get something out of it that I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about that. Oh, I need to pay attention. I need to tell somebody about it. And the only thing we ask of every member is what we call the fair share, which is $50. 30% of the membership refuses to pay it. 30%?
It's shocking.
complaining that we're not doing anything political.
So there are people that stand out because not only do they see the value, but they go deeper into their pocketbook. And I want to give some accolades to someone who has decided to do that this year. Our owner, Brandon Roberts, has pledged to go to the highest level, which is Platinum R. And I asked him, what's the matter, are you crazy? And he says, no, I care about the industry, I want to do this, and I want to do it the year I'm president to show the membership that I'm that committed in what it means. And so if you have a second today, text Brandon and say thank you for stepping up, because that is huge. There are many of us sitting here right now that are at what we call the golden R level. It's $5,000, $5,000 membership fee, whatever you want to call it. But the whole thing is it does invest into your industry. Because if you got a paycheck in 2020, 2019, or 2021, it's because of the people that are stepping up. And if nothing else, if we could get every single member, the 30% to give their $50, then none of us would have to give more ever again. But nationally, unfortunately, we're one of the few states that actually does achieve great goals in our PAC participation because of all of you, but many states do not. And so that's why we're harping on this, that's why we keep bringing these up to you, but the whole point is that this is really your business, and this is really the career you're gonna make. You can't afford not to take part in this. Make sense? Okay, that's all we're gonna say about that.
The only other thing I'll say about the PAC, right, because they hear this periodically, right? Well, you support too many Republicans, right? Or you support too many Democrats. As trustees, right, they will tell you that, guess what? We hit the ball, it's like my golf game. We hit the ball right down the middle every single time. Historically, it moves slightly between the Democrats and the Republicans, but in general, it's about a 50-50 split.
Here's how bad that got. So Haiti Kasama, the reason why that was such a big deal, we were sitting in a meeting, and I don't remember what meeting it was, and I think it was the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut was talking about how great their legislative session was. And it could have been Vermont. It's somebody with maple syrup and somewhere in the Northwest. And they're saying, you know, we didn't have one problem in the session, and it's probably because of the realtors we put in the House, or into our state house. And I'm like, what do you mean realtors? And they're like, oh yeah, the governor's a realtor, the majority leader's a realtor, the minority leader's a realtor. They were just naming off like 7 or 8 realtors that they have, both sides of the aisle, right? We have realtors on both sides. And they had these great entrepreneurs that wanted to give back to their state, so they ran for office. And so we kind of said that in the meeting. Haiti, you know, everyone who wants to step forward, do it, and we all stood back and she was left there. She's a great individual. She's been, through our series, she's been our state president all the way through. She's a great entrepreneur. She's a great example of a realtor. I think she's a great lady. And she stepped up. And during her campaign, there was a group there was another group that said, we're not going to support you because you gave money to a Democrat. Now, she is a Republican. Imagine turning to your Republican caucus and say, yeah, I did it because realtors do it, right? That's what she had to do. And that's how much that we're committed to this, is even though, you know, it's not party line for what she believes, it's a realtor issue, and she made that happen. She still won in spite of that. But it was a big thing that she had to overcome, is why are you as a Republican giving money to a Democrat? We don't do that. Why aren't everybody if they're a good candidate, right?
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
So I was gonna say that even though we have legislative sessions every 2 years, like the work doesn't end and begin at that moment, right?
Sure.
I mean, like Rocky's team is still working their butts off, even now, trying to foresee what's happening for the next legislative session, which is in a year and a half. And we're trying to, you know, as a legislative committee, we're trying to review, like, okay, so what is, like, all the ones that became dead, we know they're coming back. How can we, you know, how can we figure out what that downfall is going to be? How can we limit that to the realtor community as well as to homeowners and homeownership rights, so on and so forth. But I think it's important, if any of you like to bang your head against a wall and want to read some bills every 2 years, you should start getting involved today by going to political affairs committees, asking about how to become a trustee for Board PAC and Never PAC, what that path looks like. Definitely one of the things that you need to do is invest in our PAC and Never PAC, but at least start the process, because I mean, we're eventually going to be at a point where we're not going to be able to participate forever. And so we need other people to do it. We need fresh blood. We need people that are actually out there in the industry, boots on the ground, letting us know what's really going on. Because the last thing you want as an industry or as a owner of a property is to have somebody making decisions or facilitating decisions on your behalf when we have no idea what it's like. Do you know what I mean? So if I could do anything else besides that $50 fair share or getting a major investor, is say go get involved in political affairs, find out about joining Board Pack or Never Pack, and reach out to any one of us.
Yeah.
Chris and I don't know
And I
about
would
Tom.
tell you, if the realtors are not involved in the
Yeah.
legislature, right, all these things pass.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. There is no, there's really no other voice in Carson City that is out there protecting landlords and protecting private property rights other than the Realtor Association.
I think we just need to get that word out to realtors, period. I mean, I've had a couple experiences where they just, well, what do I gotta pay that money for? You know, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, and they just don't get it. And Ozzy, he was kind of diligently going to office meetings there for a while, and that was before the pandemic, and really, that was a good step, and we should do that as realtors.
So it's interesting. First off, let's give a round of applause to Rocky. So it's interesting because everyone that's a major investor got there because someone told them they had to do it, okay? It wasn't because of a fluffy email or because of a great video. It was because someone they respected said, I want you to come and participate in this, and this is the reason why. The reason why we bring great people in like Rocky and Isabel to talk to you about this is because each of you have the ability to go out and grab one person and say, this is why I pay my fair share. We've tried it every which way that you can possibly do it, and they never work completely, but for some reason that connection point between you and them always works. And so what I'll tell you today is if you saw what we're talking about here, that you see how important it is, go out and find one person and explain to them the reasoning behind their fair share, especially if they're here at Signature. We still have a few people here at Signature that just don't know and they don't see the why, and so it'd be great if you'd share it. The other thing is the Tata Alliance, right? Collaboration is the reason why we do this. This isn't about brokerages, and it isn't about our company colors, and it isn't about the pride of Signature. It's about the pride of our industry. And so by doing this together, by having that high tide raise all boats, it's going to mean that there's an industry for us to keep working on. Everyone starts to look at Facebook, and the sky is always falling about the things that are going to put us out of business, but yet for the last 70 years we've been in business. But these issues will put our business so that we don't want to do it, right? If you knew that you'd come to work and you didn't have a fancy car, a great haircut, and a great income, would you do it? Maybe not, right? And I'm glad you laughed at that joke because that was my favorite one so far. But the whole point is your involvement in forming those alliances and reaching out, that's what will get us to the goals that these individuals have set. And I give it up for Tom and his leadership team. He's not got an easy road. I was told there would be no session during my year, and that's kind of why I liked that year. And then we had a special session, right? And is there going to be a special session this year? Is there going to be two?
Maybe.
So you guys know what a special session is?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's where they convene and they can find new ways to give us something to do. So anyway, we thank you so much for your participation today. I'm so sorry for it going over. It's great information, stuff that you need to hear. One last thing. The world outside is changing every day. There's a lot going on that you are dealing with as a real estate agent with the COVID variants, with the political commentary, with everything that's going on. At the end of the day, what's our main job? Yes, so it's to help our consumers get from point A to point B, right? To help them find housing. And let me put this out there. More people transacted a deal because they were forced to be stuck in their house, and they decided it's not the place that they want to be stuck, right? So what's our job as realtors? It's to care about our clients. The reason why we work on private property rights and we're not looking at education and other things is because it's about our clients. It's about the ability to maintain the home the way I want to and to enjoy it, right? And so please take that with you when you go out here. Make sure that, that we can support you. We're all here for you. Have a great week and make it productive. Thanks.